Right. So I'm very bullish and I have a very bullish thesis, but I've been kind of mildly bearish for the last maybe 5, 6 months, just because I've seen the alts and meme coins running very hot. And just historically, when that happens, we come back down. And this is exactly what we saw. I think there's been a lot of capital flooding the markets with altcoin treasury companies and the like. And I think it's just been a massive distraction. It was always due to overcorrect. And I think that's where we are at now. And Bitcoin usually will come down with everything else when it comes crashing down. I think this is probably a good correction. Also, we saw a massive amount of liquidations, also largely due to alt speculation. I think people were getting liquidated 5 or 6 times, right? The big crash liquidated them and then they went long again and then they got liquidated. And then I think maybe some shorted the market and then we went down again. So it's been a wild ride for a lot of these traders. I think when a lot of this capital is flushed out, that's when we have more solid price discovery and sounder footing to go up on. As Bitcoin matures, we're going to see less volatility. And this is a function of, I would say, two things. One is the Bitcoin treasury companies, especially Strategy, which has scooped up a large amount, and they are a very consistent, a very reliable buyer at any price. The second is the ETFs, the Bitcoin spot ETFs, largely IBIT. And they have also proven to be a very reliable source of demand for Bitcoin. And I think with these two driving forces, it was always bound to reduce volatility, at least in the near term. But longer term, I just don't see Bitcoin sitting idly in this range or even in the 200,000 range. And I think we're seeing a foreshadowing of this with gold, which is the largest asset on the planet, which has skyrocketed and went up by 50% this year. It would be more like Bitcoin's trying to lull everyone into a false sense of security that they have time to accumulate. But unlike gold, Bitcoin is incredibly scarce and finite. There are only 21 million coins. Gold production will ramp up as demand increases, and we will see that. And we just don't know how much gold there is out there in the world. It's impossible to mathematically, definitively quantify that, but you can with Bitcoin. So I think we're going to see Bitcoin do its thing. It'll mirror gold, but probably in a more spectacular fashion. I've been predicting 1 million for maybe 2 years now, because all of the factors to catalyze that shift to 1 million are here, right? The previous dull factors for bull runs has been exchanges and their inability to onboard a lot of people quickly because they're bottlenecked. But with ETFs, I think this is the key factor in my theory, is that there is no bottleneck anymore because the ETFs can accumulate any amount at any time because they'll buy on behalf of the users. So you mitigate that retail barrier that kind of stymied previous bull runs. And the matter of the 1 million run is just time, and things can delay it. Like crypto heating up, I think will always delay it because people allocate capital. Even serious investors might allocate capital. Like I think Cathie Wood was buying Ethereum treasury companies, right? All of that has to come back to Bitcoin. And I think all of it will be very violent. I also have another theory called max pain theory. And that is like the most painful outcome for the most people is the most likely outcome. So if we think that Bitcoin volatility is always going to be low, and we just gradually step up to 1 million and to 10 and to dollar parity with sats, that is the best case for the world. Everyone has a long time frame to accumulate. Everyone has time to buy. And I don't think that's going to be the case. And I think a lot of people realize this. If you look at Saylor and Strategy, he's buying anytime. Like it doesn't matter if it's a top. He doesn't care about dips because there is this urgency because the time is running out to buy Bitcoin at these low prices. So we're going to see a fast run up, and gold is a good parallel for what we're likely to experience with Bitcoin. If you look at the picture circulating right now on the internet, there are people lining up, forming queues to buy gold, and gold is at an all-time high. So nobody wants Bitcoin when it's in the low 100Ks. But once we get to like $500,000 per Bitcoin, I think the world's going to wake up. Central banks are going to wake up and nation states are going to start joining the race. And that's when you go to 1 million very quickly and beyond. The state of the US economy is a problem, right? There is $37 trillion of debt. And I don't think people fully appreciate how big that is and how much of a problem it is globally. And I think we're seeing countries move away from the US dollar at the same time. BRICS countries trying to de-dollarize, a lack of demand for buying US treasuries. So it's not like Bitcoin is a problem for the US. If anything, it's a solution. I think the US can rebase to the dollar. There's lots of precedent for fiat currencies rebasing to a harder currency. But overall, regardless of Bitcoin, there are problems in the US, and those problems are coming to a head. And if you look at the US policy on a whole, they've largely embraced stablecoins. And that is because they need a buyer for treasuries, and stablecoins are that buyer. So we're seeing, I think, new companies, new entrants. Sony is one of them. Cloudflare is another. Just companies that you wouldn't traditionally associate with Bitcoin, crypto, or stablecoins. They're trying to make a push here, and this is because the US needs that. And they need that because there are problems with the economy. We've been working on nation-state adoption as Jan 3 for years now, and we always hit roadblocks, but we do get a lot of meetings. We've met with maybe 5 or 6 central banks now, and our pitch is really you should buy Bitcoin and put it on your balance sheet. But it's really difficult to get a country to move. There are always more pressing issues. There are scandals. There are re-elections to consider. So the window of opportunity and the ability for a country to do something is limited. But we have some interesting discussions going on right now. And if one of them materializes, I think we're going to see a large wave of nation-state adoption coming in 2026.
엘살바도르의 비트코인 채택 자문가로 유명한 샘슨 모우가 지금의 시장을 필수 정화 단계라고 평가했습니다. 실은 가상화폐뿐 아니라 전체적으로 시장에 조정이 오기도 했었는데요. 이렇듯 투자 시장은 개인들이 살아남기엔 정말 외롭고 공포로 가득합니다. 샘슨 모우는 비트코인 채택에 기업들이 참여하고 있고 국가적 채택 또한 있을 것이라며 내년의 상승을 당연하게 바라보고 있었습니다. 장기적으로 100만 달러를 바라보고 있는 샘슨 모우였는데요. 하지만 제 채널에 등장하는 전문가들은 대부분 비트코인을 좋게 이야기해야 하는 위치에 있는 사람들이죠. 고객 자금을 굴리고 있거나 회사 자금으로 비트코인을 구매한 사람들이 많기 때문이죠. 시장에는 정답질환 없습니다. 아무리 전문가라지만 남이 하는 좋은 말만 들어서는 투자에 성공할 수 없겠죠. 제가 구독자분들이 객관적으로 비트코인을 판단하실 수 있게 2025년과 2026년 비트코인 전망 자료집을 만들었는데요. 자료집 안에는 국가별 비트코인 보유량과 평단가, 그리고 마이클 세일러가 운영하는 스트래티지 같은 트레저리 전략을 펼치는 기업들의 보유량과 평단가를 한눈에 보실 수 있게 차트에 표시해 두었고요. 날짜별로 비트코인 시장에 어떤 일이 있었는지도 따로 표시해 두어서 추후에 적어도 비트코인에 호재나 악재가 생겼을 때 참고하실 수 있겠죠. 그리고 가장 중요한 건 아직까지 많은 분들이 비트코인의 정확한 가치를 잘 모르시거나 비트코인은 주식이나 금에 비해 변동성이 너무 심해서 사기다 라는 말을 철석같이 믿고 비트코인을 자산 포트폴리오에서 배제하시는 분들이 많더라고요. 객관적인 사실을 살펴보실 수 있게 연도별 주요 자산 상승률과 하락률을 비교 차트로 만들어 두었고요. 받아보시는 방법은 간단합니다. 첫 번째로 구독과 좋아요 눌러주시고 제가 구독자 마크 확인할 수 있게 댓글에 대응이라고 2글자 남겨주시고
지금 보시는 영상 하단 더보기랑 앤드류 커뮤니티 입장 링크 눌러주시고요. 이렇게 구독자 전용 이벤트 신청서가 나오게 되는데 여기 기타 부분을 체크해주신 뒤에 대응이라고 2글자 적어주시고요. 전화번호 적어주신 뒤에 제출까지 눌러주시면 제가 구독자분 마크 확인하고 이 대응 자료집을 보내드리도록 하겠습니다. 자, 그리고 저희 구독자분들이 가장 많이 신청 주시고 있는 이 앤드류 자동매매 프로그램 구독자분들 딱 10분께만 더 공유를 해드리기로 했습니다. 자, 이 자동매매 프로그램의 성과는 지금 총 손익이 1000%를 넘었고요. 개인 투자자분들이 가장 못하는 이 우상향하는 자산을 끝까지 끌고 가지 못하는 그런 감정적인 부분을 배제할 수 있는 프로그램입니다. 자, 프로그램 로직은요, 저희 트레이딩팀에서 사용하는 약 13가지의 복합적인 지표를 넣어서요, 속임수를 거르고 상승 추세가 확실하게 나왔을 때만 진입을 하게 되고요. 매수와 매도, 익절과 손절 그 모든 과정이 차트에 이렇게 표시가 되는데 차트 표시뿐만 아니라 저희 구독자분들이라면 누구라도 이 하단에 거래 목록을 누르시면 이 프로그램이 몇 날 몇 시에 얼마에 사서 얼마에 팔았는지까지 정확하게 보실 수가 있습니다. 프로그램의 성과를 보시면요, 손절은 이렇게 10%, 5%, 많을 때는 18% 이렇게 짧게 끊고요. 수익이 나는 폭을 보시면 108%, 34% 그리고 또 많을 때는 300%가 넘는 이런 수익을 내기도 합니다. 자, 인간의 감정을 배제하고 높게 올라갈 수 있는 종목의 수익은 끝까지 끌고 가기 때문에 이런 좋은 성과가 날 수 있게 되는 거고요. 저희 구독자분들 중에서 중에서 본업이 바쁘셔서 좀 투자하시기가 어려운 분들, 꼭 자동매매를 해야 되겠다 하시는 분들만 신청을 주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 자동매매 프로그램 받으시는 법도 굉장히 간단합니다. 똑같이 좋아요와 구독 눌러주셔야 되는데요. 제가 구독자 마크를 확인할 수 있게 댓글에 자동이라고 꼭 2글자 남겨주시고요. 마찬가지로 보시는 영상 하단 더보기랑 링크 눌러주시고, 이렇게 구독자 이벤트 신청서에서 3번째에 있는 알파빗 오토 프로 자동매매 지표 받기 눌러주시고요. 전화번호 남겨주시고 제출까지 눌러주시면 제가 댓글에서 구독자 마크 확인하고 이 자동매매 지표를 보내드리도록 하겠습니다.